Hi, friends. This is Dr. Arpita Gupta Dipalma, and you're listening to my podcast, From Pissed Off to Poised. This show is for busy women physicians and professionals just like you who are ready to take control of their emotions while learning how to excel in juggling all the things they are responsible for in life. It's for overextended mamas who are trying to figure out how to work smarter, not harder. It's for multitasking women who are tired of playing the role of the angry and resentful air traffic controller, who simply want to learn how to create a life that is more calm, intentional, and joyful for themselves. My goal is to help you learn how to eliminate the overwhelm and maintain your composure in high-stress situations that you face with the demands in your day-to-day life. Because I get you guys, this was totally me. You are not alone. I invite you to embark on your journey of transformation with me. Enjoy the listen. Hi, guys. Welcome to another episode of From Pissed Off to Poised. I am here today with my minions, my lovely, lovely human offspring that I have raised, I would say. Trying not to laugh. I'm excited to bring to you guys today my two kiddos, Sarina and Nikhil. They have truly been both a challenge and a joy in our life. They have taught us so many things, including patience, as well as humor and how to see the gift in things when they didn't seem so lovely. But I wanted to bring them on today to talk to you a little bit about their witnessing our changes and our transformation when we, used to be so angry and reactionary to how life has kind of evolved into now. And not that it's necessarily perfect, but what their perception of it is and what their experience of it has been and was continuing to be. So I'm going to let them give you a quick intro on themselves so they can give you some insight. Okay, so let's start with the older of the two children. Sarina, why don't you go first?
Hi, I'm Sarina. I'm a senior studying architecture. I love to cook and I love hanging out with my family and my friends and my dogs. And I play tennis in my free time. And yeah.
All right, thing number two, your turn.
Hi, I'm Nikhil, and I'm a freshman in college studying entrepreneurship and industrial design, and I like to fish.
What do you like to fish for?
Fish,
What type of fish?
any type, saltwater, freshwater.
Tell them what you caught this summer.
Pretty big shark in South Carolina.
Yeah, it was pretty big. It was like 5.5 feet long. It's pretty big, I would say. But all right, well, thank you guys for joining today and offering your viewpoints and perspectives. I'm going to just dive right in. And I want to first, I guess, let you guys give a little bit of perspective on what your childhood was like. How would you explain or describe your childhood to the audience, to the people listening?
I would say we had a good childhood. I think we had a lot of family time and would do things together, like go to the park and like play outside on the weekends. And I think we spent a lot of time together just like eating meals and stuff too. So I think that's just kind of been ingrained in us since then. And it's just something we've always practiced.
Mm-hmm. That sounds pretty actually good. What was not so good?
I would say more so as Nick and I started to get older, we just kind of noticed that like after long days of school and long days of work and stuff like that, um, like when you and DePalm would come home, it would just be a lot of conversation about work still, even though it was the day was over and we were at home hanging out together. And it just kind of like took over stuff sometimes, um, and like drove conversation in the house.
Mm-hmm. In a good way or a bad way? Like tell them what you saw.
But usually it would be like higher stress conversations just about like what didn't go as planned or didn't go well in the office that day. And it would just kind of be like, not like complaining, but just kind of like talking about all the bad things that happened that day at the office, back and forth.
Yeah. So it kind of sounds like what you're saying is that we'd come home and we were bringing home work with us, and that emotionally charging and negative perspective is what we kind of carried home, and that's what we let infiltrate into our life. And so Nikhil, why don't you share your perspective, what your childhood, what you remember, and then what else you noticed, both the good and the bad.
I mean, I think we had a very good childhood. We hung out as a family a lot. We did vacations together. We had time together on the weekends to do things with each of you. Like Paul and I would watch football games. We would take walks like to the park in our old neighborhood, hang out with other families in the neighborhood, and it was a really good childhood. But as we got older and the office became like more of a time suck or like frustration for y'all, I would say after work and when we came home, everybody was more short tempered and quick to like flare up. So if like something went wrong when we were at home, it was y'all would sometimes get mad even though it wasn't necessarily that bad of a thing. But it wasn't really you being angry at us. It was more the anger from the office coming out. That's what I would think, at least.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting when you guys are saying, because I mean, I think the first point I want to bring up is that you both referenced, and I didn't tell them to say this, guys, but they both referenced their childhood as good childhoods. Like they had a overall positive memory. But I know when this mom guilt like trickles in that we were so horrible, and I still grapple with this that, oh my gosh, how did my behavior and my reactions impact them? And I really screwed up my kids for all the yelling and the screaming. And it just, part of what I want you to see is, it goes to show when I talk about we have to get it right just 33% of the time to not F up our kids. I think for the most part, I have not F them up, right? What would you say that, guys, that I haven't F'd you up too much?
I don't think you did.
Well, thanks for those words of encouragement. But I mean, that's one of the main points is that we have so much mom guilt around how we're showing up when we're angry, like the impact it has. And not that it's okay to show up that way, but knowing that we are doing the best that we can and that we can try to make amends and repair any ruptures that we have. It does go to show how that helps with the healing and the progressing. The other thing I thought was interesting that both of them, so the kids, I think when we opened our medical practice, Serena was 8 and Nick was 6. And so that really kind of goes to show that their younger childhood, it wasn't as prevalent with the anger and the frustrations at home. And as they got older into middle school and upper school, that's when they really felt it because that's when we were really in the brunt of that practice and bringing all that work home and all the frustrations home. So I just thought that was a little bit interesting to point out. Looking back, like during that time when things were pretty intense at home, do you ever remember thinking that, like, WTF, why is it like this? Or that, this is just how things are? Or maybe it's like this only in our house, or even maybe everybody's house is like this. Like, what were your thought processes when you were experiencing that?
I honestly don't think I really felt like the office drama was out of the ordinary. Well, I think one thing this might be related, but it might just be separate, is that well, I personally felt like you were really strict with me, but maybe that's just because I'm the older child. But there were just a lot of things that you would like put restrictions on that I would just be like, there's no way anybody else's parents do this. And I think that is what caused me to have like a lot of built up resentment just like in high school especially. But I don't know if I like mentally related that to the office at all.
So you were seeing my own frustrations with you. You were perceiving the way I was interacting with you as a way that was frustrating. So it might not have anything to do with the office. Were there other areas that you felt like there was a lot of anger at home or misdirected anger?
I think maybe a little bit to do with like school and like our ambition and drive to like put ourselves out there to do things that made us stand out from other students maybe.
Mhm.
Like there was an extra higher expectation for that, but I don't really feel like that was the biggest thing.
Just a lot of pressure, maybe.
Yeah.
What about you, Nick?
I would say that maybe in the heat of the moment, if there was like a more angry or upset time, I would think like, why are y'all so mad for such little things? But when it wasn't like that, I would think, yeah, okay, the office maybe has something to do with it. But I also think that you guys were just like all your focus was on the office, and you like expected Serena and I to do what we needed to do without you having to tell us. So when we didn't do that, for you guys, it was like, why am I having to handle both people at the office and my kids who have already taught what they need to do?
Yeah, that makes sense. So it's like because we had all this frustration in one area of our life, we had an expectation or a manual per se that you guys were to behave a certain way after we showed you or taught you once. And the fact that you weren't doing so was not acceptable. Like, so we weren't able to have the compassion and the kindness and even the awareness of recognizing that you guys are just little kids. You're doing exactly what little kids do, but the frustration comes out, the anger comes out because we have kind of burnt the candle at both ends with everything else that was going on. And unfortunately, then you became part of the recipients of the negativity and the anger and the frustration, and it was completely misdirected. So, I guess, do you guys remember maybe the first time where Daddy and I started approaching it differently with you? Not the fact that you knew we began coaching, because that's obviously what did it, but what did you actually notice? Is there a moment that stood out for you that you're like, oh my gosh, that's like totally not the way they usually acted with the anger?
Um, for me, like the whole transition happened the first year or two that I was at school, I think. So when I came back from school, it was just kind of like a drastic difference. And I think that kind of mixed with the fact that Nick is younger and you guys were less strict with him. Like it was a mixture of you guys just being more open minded and not as worrisome about the little things, and also just not caring as much because you've already been through it once. So like the little things that Nick does aren't as big of a deal. So I think those two things mixed together were the were like quite noticeable when I got back from school the first year.
Well, what did you exactly notice? Yeah, it was different when you came back.
Like you just were letting him do things that you wouldn't let me do, and I think at first I was like taking that personally and being like, what the heck, they're just less strict with him, this isn't fair. But then I think I started to understand, like after a little while, that it was a mixture of that and because you had gone through coaching and we're starting to see things a little bit differently.
What about with you
But
specifically? Because that's your perception of our interactions with him. What did you notice with you specifically, or even amongst Daddy and I, that was maybe different?
I think with me, I just felt like you trusted that I was doing the right thing more and that I knew how to make good decisions for myself. And then with you and DePalm, I think it was noticeable that you guys were making an effort to not talk about the office at home because you wanted to like fully focus on what was going on at home when you were not at work.
Mhm.
And I think it was obvious that you were happier and we were getting along a lot better and everybody was like laughing and having fun when we were home instead of like having arguments or like having tensions be high, stuff like
Mhm.
that.
How about you, Nick? Any one specific point where you recognized, holy shit, things are different? That's not how they would have reacted before. Does anything stand out to you?
Well, I don't think it happened that quick. I think it was more of like a gradual change, but I feel like most of the change happened when Serena was in her first year of college, so she might not have seen it as much as I did because I was still with y'all every day, basically. But I would say it was more of just a gradual change to you and Palma making an effort to one, not talk about the office at home, two, just be more relaxed and calm, and then just to like enjoy the things that you do have outside of the office, like me, I guess, and then dinners that we would have together, or times we would go out together on a Friday night, or like taking walks to the river on the weekend with the dogs, just like the little things like that. I feel like
Mhm.
you guys appreciated them more and used them to somewhat get rid of the stress you had from the office.
Yeah, I talk about that as your, the shifting towards noticing the gifts and focusing on things that you're grateful for, what your wins are for the day, because you have that tendency when you are constantly faced with challenges and stressors and obstacles that your brain starts to look for all the negative things because that's natural. That's what we do because that's our brain's way of keeping us safe or trying to protect us from even more negative things happening. So if it scans the environment constantly for what all could go wrong in efforts or attempts to try to prevent that from happening. But what that ends up doing is putting us in this completely negative spiral, this negative funk, and it impacts us. It raises our cortisol levels. It impacts us at a cellular level where we are doing more harm than good. And so we have to be very intentional about focusing on the things that are good in our life. And I've talked about that. And that's something that we started doing. We started noticing what caused the negative emotions at home and eliminating that from our time where it was supposed to be our safe, nurturing, comfortable place. And then we also started looking at what was good and really appreciating and focusing on the good things. So I think that definitely helped us make the shift. What do you think about the fact that we even decided to make a conscious effort on making the change? Like, what do you all think about that in terms of how we now show up with you and how it's impacted you?
I'm glad that you did it. And I think it's pretty awesome that you did because I know some of my friends have talked about their parents in ways that kind of remind me of similar characteristics I saw with you guys before, but they talked about how their parents would never be willing to like do coaching or like do self-reflection or anything like that to like work on themselves. Or there's just more of a mental block where that's not something they think they need. And I'm just glad that you guys were able to like recognize that it could be beneficial and then try it out and see what happens.
How do you think it's influenced you? Has it led you to make changes in how you show up?
I think so. One of the biggest things is that I can't take the actions of other people personally, and I can't choose to look at how other people do things as like a direct um attack or like direct relation to me because not everything's about me, but also just because people are living in their own world and in their own mind, and it's not always like directed at other people.
Yeah.
So I think it's just kind of taught me to look at things with a grain of salt.
hmm Maybe not take other people's actions or words as an attack on you necessarily, but we tend to do that again as our brain's way of keeping us safe of danger. What about you, Nick?
I think you guys realized the um, the impacts of how you in the palm sometimes acted or felt at home around Serena and I, and you wanted to make a change. Specifically, you. I feel like you saw it more first when you started doing your coaching, and I think that helped. And so you also got De Palma to do his own coaching.
I didn't get him to do it. I think he saw what was happening and it kind of was like, oh, I want some of that Kool-Aid, whatever's going on. Because it ultimately you feel better. You don't feel so angry and upset and like all messed up in your body when you're working on it that way. So just to clarify, I didn't make him do it. He chose to do it. Um, but what were you saying? I didn't mean to cut you off.
But I was saying that I think it's definitely been beneficial, and I also think especially for him, because it was any little things would set him off, and not in a small way. He would be set off, and like something really small would happen, and it would be like the whole room's on fire. But
Do you
I
have an
think
example? Do you have an
what
example that you remember? Something that you remember?
I mean, it's not like something I like remember, but it would be like he couldn't like he'd be texting on his phone and his it would text like the wrong letters in a sentence and he would flip out. There's like little things like that. But I think the coaching for him definitely helped, especially with that. He's more in tune with what's going on. It does still happen sometimes, but I would say it's for bigger things like when there's no ingredients for the meatball sauce when he's making it.
Tell him about that example that just came up.
Like yesterday, he was making Italian meatballs for dinner, and he would finished the meatballs. He was starting to make the sauce to put them in, and he got everything together. And he was like, "Do we not have the tomato puree and sauce to make the sauce?" And I was like, "Dude, did you put it on the list?" And he was like, "I don't know." And then he got all frustrated. He started chopping up the onion with a lot of aggression. I was like, "Dude, you're gonna cut your finger off." And then I went and got the sauce, and then
Oh, geez. That just kind of goes to show that it will still pop up for you in life, like the frustrations and the anger and the resentment. It's the intensity with which you handle it. And even if it is intense and aggressive or more reactionary than you want it to be, it's always an opportunity to learn from it to figure out why. So, knowing your dad, he probably had a day scheduled with a bunch of other things that he was trying to do, including studying for his board exams. It's coming up, and this delay in not having the ingredients he needed to make dinner was activating and pushed him over the edge when he's trying to do things on a timeline. So it makes sense why it happened. It's then recognizing, hey, when your wife asks, hey, do we need to put anything on the grocery list, that we pause and be intentional with what we're doing so we don't miss out on some things, right? You think daddy's listening to this? Okay. So tell me, is there a specific tool that you use, Nikhil? Because of my kids, well, first of all, if you haven't noticed, they call me Pete and they call my husband DePalm. This is what happens as your kids get older. They don't refer to you as mommy and daddy or mom and dad anymore. They have their own little pet names, which is kind of sometimes cute and fun. But what has happened is that we have, created this environment at home where they feel very comfortable in letting us know what's going on in life. And sometimes we have to obviously pull it out of them and ask questions, right? Like Sarina, like we did last night to get the conversation going. But they're willing to share, which is super important because the most important thing that we want is to have that connection with our kids. And in order to do that, we have to create a safe environment where they feel comfortable sharing, knowing that they're not going to be judged or attacked or ridiculed in a sense. And sometimes it might happen. And then also that's another opportunity for more conversation. But I guess that being said, of the two kids, Serena being the eldest is a little bit more typical type A personality, matching my husband and I. And Nikhil has always been more of a everything is swell, life is great, everything rolls off his back, more easygoing of the two for sure. So I think Serena explained which tools that she's really adopted for herself, including, not making everything an attack on her regarding what other people do and say. But Nikhil, is there something that you've used or kind of implemented, even though you could probably be a mindset coach yourself, the way you live your life, honestly?
I would say that for me, I've always been like pretty easygoing. So I don't necessarily have to do all the different things for me to not get upset. I guess I do use the tools you use just in a different way. Like when I need to reset my mind, I'll just go fish or do something that I like to do to take a break. So that's something that I do that I've always kind of done my whole life. And I'm sure there's something similar that you do as one of your tools for mindfulness.
Well, me, I meditate and I do my stretching in the morning and I try to go and walk pretty frequently. So I think what you're talking about is pretty important that you just find something that helps you refill your cup and make sure you're putting yourself on the schedule so you can kind of reground and recenter so you're able to show up and go back into the thick of things as a well-resourced, functional, productive self. So it's kind of what I like to do. I think, Serena, you mentioned you like to cook. Is there something else that you find that really helps you kind of reset and reground?
I think cooking. I've honestly kind of just started to really enjoy doing that and going to the grocery store.
Okay,
Sometimes if I have a bad day, just go to the grocery store.
you can take my grocery store run. I hate going to the grocery store. What do you think it would look like today in our house if Daddy and I hadn't done anything? We just had kept on going the way we were going.
I don't think we would laugh as much. I think we would all be not happy. I don't mean that. I just mean we would just have a lot more resentment for each other, I think.
Mhm,
And I don't think it would be as fun being home.
mhm. Do you like being
I
home?
think
Do you
we
come?
I think we have a lot of fun now.
Yeah, no, I think we do too. I think one of the biggest gifts, I think Daddy even talks about it, and he talked about it in the last episode, is the fact that you guys, at least it looks like you guys want to come home. You enjoy coming home. You enjoy spending time with us, and we don't have to force you to do it. I feel like that seems pretty true. I almost am scared to ask you because I don't want to know if it's not.
I think it's true.
Oh, what about you, Nick? What do you think it would look like today if we hadn't done the work?
I don't know, honestly. I can't really imagine what it would look like if that didn't happen. It kind of seemed like it had to happen almost.
Why?
I think everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
I mean, the way that how everyone was acting towards each other, it just wasn't like a good place.
Hmm. Yeah.
So I think the coaching really helped when it mattered.
Is there something that you would offer or say to other people, their parents, maybe parents that are stressed out from work? I mean, any type of work. What would you tell them about handling your anger and handling their difficult emotions and how to do it? And if it's worth it, like, what's something that you would say to them?
I would say it's definitely something that you should do, especially if you want to bring your family closer together, even if your kids aren't as talkative or communicative with you or just your whole family in general. I think it could be because they don't feel like you're always listening or like you don't have the time to listen. But with the coaching, you can realize what really matters and what's important. And it can help you, I guess, bring your family closer together in ways like it did for us.
I think if you're feeling like unhappy about anything or if you're dreading anything like either coming home or going to work or just like having to spend time with people or making dinner or just like small things that you feel like you're not excited to do, there's always room to change that. Because I think you should always, not always, but I think there should be room for you to be excited and happy about what's going on in your life. And so I think if you don't feel like you have that, there's always room for you to work to strive for that. And I think that's one thing my parents noticed was that they weren't showing up how they wanted to and they weren't getting the outcomes that they wanted to in terms of their actions and their results were making them feel. And so they decided to work towards changing that. And I think that's ended up being something that was very helpful for our whole family, not just them.
I think it's interesting because, I mean, you kind of reference this that, we have everything that we needed. We had a roof over our heads, we have food, we have family and friends close by. Everything from the outside looked perfect. Like it was nothing else is needed to make anybody be happy. But yet on the inside, there was so much discontentment and frustration and anger, like you said. And so that's when we got to the point where we were like, we're working so hard, we have everything that we want, and yet we're still not happy. Like we still feel stuck. We still feel like nothing is in our control. And the result of that is that anger, that frustration, that resentment that then we're seething out to the people that we love the most, quite frankly. And that's not how we want to be. And so, once you can start to recognize that if there's areas in your life where you feel like it's just not happy, you're not feeling the joy, you're not living with intention and doing the things you want, realistically, yes, we all have to create an income or want to create an income so we can create the life that we want in our dreams. But it doesn't have to always be such a struggle. It doesn't have to be a grind. And you can honestly choose not to have a career and not, and then figure out a way to live how you can to sustain yourself. But ultimately, it's our choice, what we bring into our life, what we're choosing to allow into our life, how we choose to look at it and think about it, and how we choose to respond from there once we practice it. So, guys, any last words just to end with? Anything, any funny stories that you want to tell, and maybe a little tidbit on what they can do, even if they don't work with a coach on their own at home, something that they can take small steps for?
I would say that not everything is as important as it seems. Like if you get a bad grade or something bad happens in your day, it's not always that big of a deal as you make it to be. So you should just take a breath and then get over it and move on. And the rest of your day will be much better than if you keep thinking about it all day.
One,
Or maybe you think about it and notice how you're thinking about it. So sometimes it's hard to just get over it and move on, right? If you're upset. So realistically, if you reflect back to something where you've been really pissed off or ticked off about it, Nick, how do you move past it? Because it's not easy to just say, oh, never mind, it doesn't bother me anymore, and you move on. So what do you actually do?
I just go do something I like go to the gym or go hang out with some friends or go outside to the river or just go fish, something like that.
Okay. You redirect your mind. You focus on something else, maybe focus on something that you do enjoy or notice the gifts to redirect, right? Because it's hard to just say, forget it, don't worry about it and move on, right?
Yeah.
What about you, Sarina?
I think one thing that I have picked up on just from the people that I'm around that you wouldn't have to go to coaching to learn is that from Pete, I've learned that you should live your life with intention. From Nick, I've learned that it's good to be a little bit nonchalant. And from De Palm, I think he just is like a man of very few words, but he's always observing and listening and picking up on things. And I think the mixture of all of that is what I've been kind of practicing this past year, especially. And it's just kind of helped me to not worry about the little things as much, but still make sure I'm doing everything with intention and not just acting on emotion. And I think it's just helped me to be a little bit happier and a little bit less worried and high strung and stressed. And I think it's helped my outcomes be a little bit better just overall in life this year.
Mm.
And we've just been laughing a lot more.
So for this year, 2025, what is something that you want to start doing or implement in your toolkit or in your life to make a change?
For me, I think I've started doing this a little bit already, but just to continue doing it, I think only acting on things that are going to be beneficial to me and the people around me that I love instead of doing things that might be instigatory or might be acted on emotion or might just be like what I'm feeling in the exact moment, but not really something I've thought through. Not even spending too much time thinking about it, just like doing what I know is really right and what's going to be the most beneficial just based on the lessons I've learned so far. And so just keeping those lessons and implementing them.
What about you, Nick? What's on your plate for 2025? What are you doing?
Um, just keep doing what I've been doing, I guess.
What's something new that you're going to implement that is going to make it even better?
I mean, I already do a lot of things that make it pretty good for me, particularly. I'm just gonna, I guess, keep living how I normally live, keep doing well in school, go to the gym, just, I guess, live life.
And as you can see, they're two very different kids, and I think I described them to a T. So, well, thank you for being on the show and to give the audience your perspective. Again, this started back when Sarina was a junior in high school, and so now she is about 4 years, 5 years after that. So that's the time where this has all evolved and changed. So thank you guys. I appreciate you. I love you for doing this. I love you regardless, but it was nice of you to want to do this with me.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. That's all I get. Uh-huh.
Well, thanks for having us.
All right. Go have fun. I appreciate you guys. Love you.
Okay, love you.
Yeah.
And everybody else. Bye.
Goodbye. I hope you enjoyed today's episode of From Pissed Off to Poised. Remember, transformation is a journey, not a destination. So enjoy the ride. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review From Pissed Off to Poised on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback supports my mission to get this podcast out to help other women physicians and professionals like you on their path to creating a more peaceful life with more intention and more joy. I enjoy reading every message I get with your input and feedback on my journey, so keep them coming. And if you have a friend who might enjoy the listen, please share this episode and show with them. Lastly, if you want to learn more about my coaching programs and course offerings, check out my website at www.thoughtworkmd.com. Feel free to reach out to me to learn more about investing in yourself through one-to-one coaching so you can start living the life you've always wanted. This show is for general educational and entertainment purposes only. Life coaching is not a substitute for therapy or medical treatment.